Everybody. So with this video, we're going to focus on challenging the unhelpful beliefs that may be pulling you into negative states of mind. We're going to learn to do this by asking a series of challenging questions when these beliefs pop up. So first, let me tell you where this information is coming from. First is cognitive behavioral therapy by Dr. Aaron Beck. This theory has been around since the 1960s, and pretty much all mental health providers are very familiar with this treatment modality. It is very helpful for identifying and learning ways to challenge unhelpful beliefs. The second is called cognitive processing therapy, and it's developed by Patricia Rezik. This is somewhat of a variant on cognitive behavioral therapy. She developed this therapy to address beliefs that often come to us as a result of trauma that has happened in our lives. I can tell you there are so many apps and workbooks available for both of these modalities, and you're certainly welcome to research them and find any information, and perhaps even find a workbook that actually you feel kind of drawn to. As for Chef Ramsay and Simon Cowell, I'm putting this meme up to remind you, you can make your mental health journey more fun. Sometimes people have an inner monologue happening when they think. For those of you that do and have a creative bent, feel free to give your unhelpful beliefs any kind of voice or presentation you would like. Or just use your own voice, whatever works for you. For review, here is a typical clinical explanation of how our beliefs impact our moods. In cognitive behavioral therapy, it is known as the ABC model. The idea is that the person does not necessarily have to change their environment to feel better. Instead, they can feel better by acknowledging and changing their reactions to their environment. It is essentially the format you use for doing your own after-action report. You identify what the activating event is. Say we use the same example from the previous video and someone cut you off in traffic. This will trigger a belief. Perhaps people in Colorado Springs can't drive. And there will be a consequence, such as you get angry or you speed up or flip them off. Typically, the length of time between the activating event and the consequence can be so slight it feels almost instantaneous. From your perspective, you were immediately afraid or angry. However, trust me, no matter how slight, there was a belief that got activated. Strong emotions, however, can change your ability to think clearly, which is why it is better to go back and do an after-action report on yourself once you are calm and the adrenaline and cortisol has returned to normal levels. Then you can think better. By the way, in the relationship realm, this is why timeouts are recommended. It gives your brain chemistry time to return to normal before doing something that you will later regret. I'll definitely talk more about this in later videos. Some people will do AARs using the ABC model or a variant of the model at the end of the day, or will journal them more in free form. Doing this can be helpful if you want to see if you have a pattern of specific beliefs. This may make it easier to challenge these thoughts in the future. So here is our first situation. You are up for a promotion below the zone. You're in an overpopulated career field. You have all your points and certifications up to date and have multiple awards. You are someone that usually does better academically and socially than your peers. People like you. Your family values rank and progression. So in this situation, the activating event is that you were not picked up for promotion. It triggered the belief of, I am a failure. I have to be perfect to succeed here. And you believe that about 80% out of 100. Consequences that you stop trying so hard. You're embarrassed, and you feel embarrassed at about a 90% level. You begin to assume people are looking at you negatively, which could now become its own belief that causes other trouble with activating events, like someone ignores you. This is the first of the challenging questions. The idea here is to go through many of them that fit for your situation and use the combination of the challenging questions to lower, not eradicate, but at least lower the level of conviction of your belief and the resultant emotion. It is not to get rid of the belief entirely or to eradicate your negative feelings entirely. It is to get them to better match objective reality. So first is developing the facts that support the belief and a list of facts that do not support the belief. So in this case, you could say that fact is you did fail to pick up promotion. And also as a fact is that you are in a group of people that are smarter and more successful than what you're used to being around. So getting ahead seems a little bit harder. Facts against the idea that you are a failure, however, is that you are in an overpopulated career field. You have succeeded in many other areas, and you did do everything that you could in order to get ahead. Next is a very common challenging question because it happens a lot. Consider whether or not your belief is based on a habit or based on a fact, or maybe a little bit of a combination. So habit would be, I have always felt that if I fail, I am a failure. This has been told to me throughout my life. You have to succeed to be good enough. Fact would be, I did fail to make the rank below the zone. I am in an overpopulated career field, and I have been told I am good at what I do. This challenging question is a bit more broad and can mean several things. For instance, it could be asking, is what I'm thinking realistic based on the actual facts? Am I making assumptions or jumping to conclusions without sufficient evidence? Am I interpreting this in an extreme or black and white way? In this particular case, you might say, yes, I am thinking that rank is the only measure of worth as a person. I am much more than just my rank. I have seen less than perfect people succeed. Like the previous question, this doubles down on the am I thinking in all or none terms. This and the next slide both look at how we talk to ourselves and others, by the way. How we talk to ourselves matters. The actual words and sentence construction matters. It impacts how we view the entire situation. In this particular case of are you thinking in all or none terms, you could say, yes, I am. Failing to make rank below the zone is not the only indicator of success in my career field. It is not the only indicator of my worth overall. So again, as mentioned, extreme or exaggerated words can totally color or change how you think about your situation. So in this case, you might say to yourself, yes, I am. Perfect is a pretty strong and absolute word. This would be an extreme type of word to use in any kind of thought process. So some of these may overlap a bit, but that's not bad. Sometimes we need to think through different things from a variety of different perspectives. So in this particular case, are you taking the situation out of context? Yes, maybe focusing only on rank to determine if I'm a failure is not the best option. There are many other parts to my job, my career, and my life. Additionally, I have seen other less than perfect people succeed in the military. They are successful. Sometimes it takes time. This one, is the source of the information reliable? Well, in this particular case, you've got a couple sources of information. So you may say to yourself, I am one of the sources of information. given my other answers here, I may not be the most reliable source. Additionally, my friends and family may not understand how promotion works and not have all the facts of my career field. So I can't fully count what they say to determine my worth or overall success. Well, every challenging question in this model may fit, and this is an example of one that doesn't. But let me give you an example that would fit this. So basically, let's consider that you went to go see a movie a while back in Aurora, in one of the Batman films. Somebody dressed up as a Joker and started shooting everyone. So if you see that and you see that over and over and over again on the television, you're going to think, in your mind, that this is a regular occurrence. So you may actually not want to go to the movie theater thinking it's common. However, you're actually confusing a very low probability of this happening with a high probability because it got so much press. The low probability you would figure out, much as you might think, is by figuring out how many movie theaters are there in Aurora? How many are there in Denver? How many times a day are these movie theaters showing that movie? Times how many theaters there are in the United States and then the world. And what you'll probably find is that it is not common for people to be shot in a movie theater. So in that case, it's confusing a low versus a high probability, but it doesn't really fit with the rank. So we'll go to the next one. So in this particular case, you're looking at feelings more so than facts. This is what's called emotional reasoning. So emotional reasoning would be, say, for instance, that because you feel anxious and afraid, you basically make the assumption you have reasons to be anxious or afraid, and you look around and then decide that what you see is enough of a reason. So in this particular case, you may say something to yourself like, I have been feeling pretty down and insecure lately. This could really be coloring how I think about this whole rank thing. Because I feel insecure, I may be thinking that people think badly of me when actually they don't. So in relation to, are you focused on irrelevant factors? In this case, you might consider maybe half and half. So you could say, I think it is relevant that I did not make rank, but I am disregarding some relevant factors though. Like my career field is over strength and my friends' career fields are not. So therefore, it doesn't really work out as an equal one-for-one type of assessment. As you can see, this individual still has a 30% strong belief in his original thought that he is a failure and he has to be perfect. This makes sense, given that it is a habit thought from childhood and espoused as a virtue in the military. So therefore, he still has some uncomfortable feelings like anger and disappointment, but it is at a more objective and functional level. So the goal is not to get rid of all the uncomfortable feelings. Rather, it is to use the more balanced beliefs and emotions in a constructive way rather than a destructive way. If used effectively, so-called negative feelings can be very motivational. The big payoff is how you end up feeling overall and how you end up behaving, such as continuing to operate at a high level and enjoy being around people. This is just one example of how to use these questions. I do encourage you to check out cognitive behavioral therapy if you like this method. Again, there are so many resources online. I can't legally recommend any particular resources, but look for the ones that seem to fit you best. Of course, if you would like some help coaching through this particular method, reach out to me or to your local mental health professional. Have a good day.